Gaming news today is all about Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. It was inevitable. Comparisons were going to be made. I do plan to do another deep dive in to Yotei, the same way I did with the story in Tsushima. If you haven't checked out that video, it is the Ghost of Tsushima, What is Honor? This will be a spoiler-free discussion about Ghost of Yotei because I did want to look at some of the comparisons and just see how much of a visual leap Yotei is over Tsushima. The lead up to Yotei had a lot of people saying it didn't really look that much better than Ghost of Tsushima, and I maintain that that was a testament to just how good Ghost looked back when it originally came out. It has a very, very strong art style, but strong art style doesn't mean that the new game didn't actually look markedly better. And the comparisons, I think, now are available, and I want to sort of bring you my findings. I combed over a really great side-by-side video. I've got some select sections that I want to show you. There's also the Digital Foundry video that had some commentary from them about ray tracing and the performance ray tracing mode that they prefer. We'll be looking at like texture comparisons, foliage, the world, lighting, combat, and then some of those sections of the Digital Foundry video. Now, there's also a video that has come out that is comparing Ghost of Yotei to Assassin's Creed Shadows. And if you're familiar with my content, I, for a while now, have said that I felt AC Shadows was the best looking game this gen. When you turn on global illumination, it just really had a great visual lift in that game, and it maintained 60 FPS on the PS5 Pro. Now, we're hearing, that you can do that in Tsushima, but the Digital Foundry video's got some good information about how that works. So if you're watching this later, there'll be a timestamp below of when I start to kind of go through that section of comparison. I do want to talk to the audience first, kind of get their feel on this. Is this something that they're looking for? Do we think that Ghost of Yotei is sort of the beginning of this being an entire franchise or just a trilogy? There is a lot to discuss. We'll be diving into Ghost of Yotei gameplay this week as well, so you'll be able to see it on my channel, on the Pro. Regardless of where you watch, I stream at a very high resolution, high bit rate. I even stream in AV1 on YouTube, so that does clean up some of the compression. So be sure to check out those live streams. If you're here right now in the live audience, make sure and hit the like button. If you're watching later, hit the like button. And I know it's still an ongoing discussion. A lot of YouTubers are still reporting numbers not being great or not turning around. We cannot make predictions about how well anything's performing right now. One of the best ways you can ensure that this show keeps going is support the channel directly. We cannot rely on YouTube right now to even put my content in front of subs consistently. So if you click that join button, be sure to pick Member Plus. $6 a month, you get into a bunch of extra shows, Friday Nights with Madam and all of that. We're trying to get that number back to 600 people. It's at about 500 right now. So if you enjoy this content on a regular basis, that's an easy way to support. I'm not sending you somewhere else. You can do it right here on YouTube. And Joker Quinn's going to renew his VIP to get us started. So let me go ahead and add that to the total. And we have our little alert box down here. And they're still doing the incentive over there on purple. So between today and tomorrow in the middle of the day is a great time to go crazy with gifteds over there because you're going to give us bonuses from Valorant. We have a renewal with a Prime over there from Collide. What's going on with Perfect Image? He says, my heart goes out to Perfect Image. What happened with his family? I didn't hear anything. And then that's going to put us one away from the first 100 of the week. So we're a teeny bit behind pace. We started out strong yesterday, but then it kind of slowed down. Can't wait for Ghost of Yotei to sell over 10 million copies again. I mean, these Wokies and their feelings. I'm not sure what that has to do with that. I mean, I think, yes, I think Yotei is going to sell very, very well. I'm going to pause the thing that bothers everybody on YouTube. So, and Wired Rope is going to do the first 5 of the day, and we got a bonus 2. So Han shot first, and so did you. The first gifted of the day is going to be a 5 from Wired Rope, and we're going to get a bonus 2 singles coming in from Valorant. So that turns that into a 7. Guys, if you're going to go crazy with gifteds between today and tomorrow, and you don't mind doing it on purple instead of Team Red, this is a huge thing that they're doing that we would love to cash in on. It's going to get a lot more people in the community because it's not you, it's Valorant doing it. Like, they're the ones adding to the total. Lobo says it'll sell more than Tsushima. That wouldn't surprise me, Lobo. A lot of games don't outsell their predecessor, but that could happen this time. And we got another bonus from Valorant because Cardoc Ren dropped a 5-bomb as well over here on purple, and then we get the bonus added on from Valorant. And then English O renews his VIP over here on Team YouTube and says, what did the blanket say as it fell off the bed? Oh, sheet. Well, thank you so much for 49 months and a VIP. And then DK Bager's going to gift a member over here on Team YouTube as well. Thank you so much for doing that, DK Bager. Just hopped in. Have you seen the day one patch notes for Yōtei? Looks like Sucker Punch fixed a lot of the games released. Yeah, I did notice that one of the things that was highlighted in the video by Digital Foundry, they've already kind of addressed that, where like they're working on visual stability with PSSR and the ray tracing and some other things. So that's good to see that they're already seemingly tackling some of that. So that is a good sign. I didn't have any doubts that Sucker Punch would have a very, very well-built, well-optimized game. That was never really in doubt in my mind. They did such a good job with the first game. I mean, to this day, the reason I think this video is important, with Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima, the reason I think this is important is because the dialogue was very much like, oh, it doesn't look any better, it doesn't look any better. And I continue to say, I'm like, that's really a feather in the cap of Tsushima. It looked so good for its time. To think that game came out 5 years ago on old gen, I think is impressive. I also think this kind of adds to the discussion that we've been having where the next big push is going to be in lighting. Some of the differences in lighting when like Digital Foundry is kind of walking you through it, you might say, man, that's barely any different. But it's a very, very subtle grounding where the game feels more real and more alive. And I think that's where you're going to start to see some of these differences, especially in future, iterations of hardware, where the focus is not, oh man, we quadrupled your resolution. It's going to be more about the lighting and making the image quality is just going to continue to be the phrase and the buzzword I think that matters most. Is can you get that image quality to rise noticeably? Hogwarts Legacy did some cool lighting. They did. Be truth and risk is its relation. I didn't know you guys had a day called that. Ghost of Yotei is a maybe for me, says Brandon. The graphics look really good, but the reviews gave it an 8 out of 10. Plus, I already bought Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, which will be fun to play. The gameplay looks sick, though. Do you play, do you have like a co-op, like a couch co-op person? Because those games are so fun if you have somebody that's more of a non-gamer. Those were huge games and a catalyst into my wife doing co-op games together, is the Galaxy games. There's some old Digital Foundry videos on Forspoken that really shows off what good lighting does. I'm ready for Yōtei. Haven't gotten any slashers, so I'm just fatigued for similar games. You mean to tell me you wouldn't buy a game if it was given an 8 out of 10 score? Yeah, I was going to press in on that, Crypto Brandon. Are you saying that the reviews being an 8 out of 10 is making you press pause on buying it? You don't feel like that's, to me, anything 8 and up is a pretty good endorsement of a game. Like, obviously a 9 from all of the outlets. I mean, it's an 87, so I mean, that's pretty close. That's pretty close to a 9. I mean, it's not a 9, but that's pretty good, I would say. Reviews say Yōtei is better than Tsushima. That's all you need to know. Perfect Image says, my uncle's in the hospital. He's in ICU. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I'll remember to pray for you and your family, man. Jeez, that is scary. I'm worried about review bombing. You can't review bomb it. Like, if people go to Metacritic and review bomb, like, who cares? They're not purchasing the game. They're non-verified purchasers. They're just haters. Your experience as a gamer is improved tenfold when you start ignoring haters because they don't contribute anything meaningful to the world. They just hate. Like, if you go to the PlayStation Store on Monday of next week and you look at the user score, that's all you need to see, honestly. That's your best barometer of the game's quality. You go Metacritic. Metacritic's user score is a joke. Like, they don't verify purchase. They just let anybody go over there and seethe and maul about, like, I hate women. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they'll just downvote it or whatever. There is no reason to be concerned at all about a review bomb on Metacritic. You talk about one of the most impotent things you can do as a human being. That's pretty weak. You know, I went to a website and I gave a game a 0. Like, oh, you, what a big boy you are. Like, it's just pathetic. Like, if you want to know the barometer of a game's quality, you go to the user score on Steam, on PlayStation, on Xbox. That's your barometer of a game's quality. How are the people that bought the game treating it? That's it. That is it. That's all you need. You don't need Metacritic. Now, somebody's going to say, but why would we look at Metacritic for reviews? Now, oftentimes in this discussion, I've had people very, very easily misunderstand what I'm saying. Metacritic is a very, very useful tool when a review embargo drops to get an approximation of a game's quality, because the law of large numbers, right? When you have 100 different review outlets reviewing a game and it gets an 87, and you go to OpenCritic and it has an 87 or an 88, that's a really good approximation of the game's quality, because it's like, it's obviously not a piece of crap. Now, when I say approximation, the reason that I say that is you might end up with something like Jedi Survivor, where performance issues were kind of glossed over. It gets a great score, and a bunch of people bought a game that was clearly not ready to be delivered. Similar things happen with other titles that were like, wow, their user score and the review score are very, very separate. So I do think Metacritic is a valuable tool. When an embargo drops, it can give you an approximation of a game's quality. Now, if you want to know, and I've always maintained this, the best, okay, so I'm moving along here, a spectrum, the best barometer of a game's quality is the user score. Always. Why? Way more people. When some games got 1,000 reviews on Steam and 1,000 reviews on PlayStation after its opening weekend, and you're like, oh, it's got an 86. There's your answer. That doesn't mean you're going to like it, but there's your answer. That's, you're not going to get Steam reviews on Yōtei. They'll have to wait 18 months or whatever, but I still think the PlayStation score is very reliable. What was the game that recently came out, Lost Soul aside? I told you guys that score was just going to keep going down. I said, this isn't a very good game. It's not going to fare very well. And right now you can go to the PlayStation store and the Steam store, and you can see that Lost Soul aside doesn't have a great score. And that's a good indicator of the game's quality. It doesn't mean it's going to stink or suck or you're not going to like it. Now, Barrett's Chosen just did a 19-month renewal and gets us to 115. And then a 20 bomb comes in from Pathalon Phoenix. And he is laying the gauntlet down, Twitch, you have a huge advantage between today and tomorrow. Valorant can literally add to your total every 5. Now, that means I owe YouTube from yesterday. We are now at 4. No. Did I owe you guys 3? Yeah, I owed you guys 3 yesterday and 2, I think. Yeah, 3 to YouTube yesterday and 2 to Twitch. I'm saving on Twitch because I want to give you guys a 5 bomb. And so right now I owe 3 to Twitch and 4 to YouTube. Sorry, I'm trying to keep it all straight. Plenty of games below quality are rated well by users. Sometimes. And Alex gives us a bonus. He does a 5 over here on purple, and we get a bonus member from Valorant. Thank you so much for doing that. We are 9 away from the next milestone. PS5 users rated Monhun Wilds really highly. The game is not quality. Yeah, I think that's fair. That I also think that's an oddity and a rarity, though, Eugene. That's a lot of the, when you have the volume of fandom kind of protecting you. You know what I mean? If you guys haven't hit the like button yet on YouTube, do me a favor and do that. Give us our first 100 likes. I'm going to go ahead and pause the thing that nobody likes. So let's get some likes, if you understand what I'm saying. There was a Demolition Man reboot. Are you sure you're not confusing it with current real life? What are you talking about? Black Myth Wukong on PS5. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder too sometimes though with like Black Myth Wukong if there are just people that just don't see it. They don't see the issues with the performance mode, or maybe they played in quality mode. I don't know. I mean, there's still a good number of people that prefer quality mode over performance mode, which is kind of crazy. PlayStation Studio games would score higher, but they always get more reviews than any other platform. 113 reviews and sitting on an 87 is really good. Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think that's a problem, though. You know, like, if they had 60 reviews and an 89 or a 90, but there was only 60 reviews, I feel like it's a stronger testimonial to be like 113 reviews, boom, 87. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying. Quantity of reviews is always going to make having a high score more difficult. This is why when something does get a really good score, like when Astrobot got the score that it did, or this year in particular, you see like Expedition 33 and some others up there in the 90s. It is so difficult. It is very difficult to hold on to a score in the 90s. It's not easy. It only takes a handful of outlets to shrug at your game, and it'll pull your average down very, very quickly. This is why anytime we were talking about Ghost of Yotei, I kept saying, Ghost of Yotei will likely land in the high 80s as a best case scenario because it only takes a couple. And the day that the reviews hit, I showed you guys, I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. We were in the 90s for forever. Then we were in the 80s for forever. And there was like 9 outlets, like single digit outlets that basically gave it the yellow score, and some of that gets lost in translation because you had a couple of them giving it like 3 out of 5 stars, which translates into a 60%. Oh, it's actually improved now. There's only 8 mixed. I wonder if somebody changed their score. I think there was originally 9 mixed reviews. So, I mean, I just want you to think about this for a second. 100 people, 93% of the people who reviewed it gave it a positive or favorable score, okay? And then 8 people come in. This is all it takes. This is all it takes. And it lowers your score out of the 90s. Because obviously, if you took these off the board, that 87 would quickly become a 90-something. So again, when it comes to a game like Ghost of Yotei, I remember people being like, oh, you don't think it could win? You don't think it could get a nomination? I think in an 87, it could easily get a nomination, but I don't. Do we know who changed their score? Favorable cutoff is 75. Yeah, if you have a 75, you're green. 74 and down, it switches to yellow. Yeah. You can have a favorable and be below 80s. True. The point is, though, it doesn't take very many people to pull the score down is really all we're driving at. Perfect Image, thank you for 23 months. Thank you for being here to keep me from not going insane. I'm trying to hold my composure and can't wait for Ghost of Yotei. Thank you for 23 months, Perfect Image. I appreciate that. The other Game of the Year contenders have similar thing going on and still have higher scores. No, you're not disagreeing. I don't know if you're disagreeing with me or somebody in chat. You're agreeing with me. I've always said that if you can maintain above a 90, that is really impressive because it only takes a couple of people to lower the score. That means that nobody did. Almost nobody did. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's impressive. When you hold on to a 92, 93, 91, even a 90, when you hold on to a 90 and above, it is really, really impressive. That's why I wish they would cut off the top 10% and the bottom 10%. Outliers should be discounted. Unless you could say that the outliers kind of, cancel each other out. I don't know if I don't know if I like that idea. I like the idea of Ghost of Yotei getting 100 and something reviews, and you've got the top, the bottom, and everything in between. I think that's a good representation of what everybody was thinking. What if a game with 10 reviews gets a 90? So that is still impressive. That means that everybody that touched it liked it for the sake of a review, right? You'd obviously then go look at the user scores as well, and they would probably be pretty strong. It would be unusual for 10 outlets to land something on a 90. The reason that won't necessarily put you in contention for Game of the Year is you're not going to get enough votes because such a small amount of outlets reviewed. If you go to OpenCritic right now, there's a game up at the top that doesn't have very, very many scores. Shujin Ko or whatever this is called. Okay, so look, it's the second highest rated game this year. Okay, it has 7 reviews. So this doesn't have a shot at Game of the Year. It's not going to get enough votes. It's impressive that 7 people touched the game and are just obviously really, really liking it. But that's not going to get enough votes. So that's what it's always going to come down to. It's 2 things. How many people reviewed it, and then what's the score? Those 2 things come together and lead to typically a nomination if it's in the upper echelons. Thank you, Warhawk Gaming, for 23 months and doing a Member Plus, taking us to 142. We are 8 members away from the next milestone. Don't forget, if you guys have been thinking about going and doing your gifting, dropping big bombs, consider doing it on Twitch between today and tomorrow afternoon because Valorant is adding extra subs anytime you do 5 or more. It runs a raffle. We can get a bonus 1 up to 100. Shujin or whatever is a Japanese language learning game and apparently really good. Oh, really? That's cool. Is this out tomorrow or Thursday? Thursday, Dr. Chungus. We will be playing Ghost of Yotei gameplay on Thursday, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you have the bell button turned on. I know people aren't going to want spoilers. I usually play a new game like this for like an hour. We'll probably go a little bit longer that day. Sucker Punch should get back to Infamous after this. A lot of people were asking that the other day. Did they feel like Ghost of Yotei is kind of the beginning of a franchise, or is it the middle of a trilogy? Right? Yeah, we've been back on the purple platform since April. I think I need to do a short video, not on this channel. We've got an older channel that we don't do anything with, but that's where all of my like Destiny people were. I think if we just did like a really short video saying, hey, by the way, you know, a lot of you enjoyed watching on Purple. You know, I'm back over there now. If you want to tune into the talk show, here's the link or whatever. And just let as many people know as possible. There are still people that don't realize I'm back. I've been back over there since April. They should fuse the IPs. Ghost of Infamous. No. No, I would say do one or the other. Yeah. Ghost is too lucrative of a franchise to not make more. It kind of feels like their other Horizon. Like Horizon came out as a new, IP and did very, very well. And I feel like Ghost has done very similar. It's not to the same degree, but it could start to be in a similar ballpark after Yōtei. Like Yōtei looks to be on a very, very strong arc for commercial success, just based on what we're seeing from pre-orders. I'll buy it if it's not like AC Shadows. I played that game for a couple missions and turned it off. I didn't enjoy it. I mean, there will be things in it that are similar to AC Shadows, but Ghost is a unique game. It's not... There's things that you're like, oh, this is kind of like it, but I would say Ghost has a greater emphasis on combat, and AC Shadows had a greater emphasis on... I don't really know. The emphasis on combat in AC was good. It wasn't bad. It just ran out of gas for me after about 30 hours. Tsushima is a game that I can pick up any time and just replay a duel just for the fun of it, because the combat just feels so good. It's difficult to do that with AC Shadows. Like AC Shadows combat is fine. I wouldn't say that it's bad. It's just sort of like comparing AC Shadows to Yōtei is just odd. I actually don't think it's odd at all. I think there's a lot of similarities, especially the story itself is similar from everything that we've seen from the trailers for Yōtei. So I don't think Ghost of Yotei versus AC Shadows is a weird comparison in the least. I think it can be very informative. All comparisons can serve a purpose. Now, not all comparisons are helpful. Like if you compared Ghost of Yotei to Street Fighter, there's not going to be enough points of connection for you to really make much of a comparison. But you could compare Ghost of Yotei to Sekiro if you wanted, and it would serve a purpose. It wouldn't be like a one-to-one, oh, they're the same genre, they're the same type of game, but it could serve a purpose. If you really liked Sekiro's combat, you may be able to get into Tsushima and Yotei because there's a heavy emphasis on combat. But if you're like, no, I need to be brutal and punishing, that comparison can also help you to know that, no, this won't be nearly as brutal and punishing. I mean, you could try lethal and watch some of the videos on Tsushima's lethal mode. There will not be lethal mode at launch for Yotei, like lethal mode and New Game Plus and stuff like that. Are apparently going to be coming later. So if you're just tuning in and enjoying the show, guys, make sure you're hitting the like button. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to be, in about an hour into the show, I'm going to look at some comparisons. Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. I've got a really good video. I've got some Digital Foundry clips for you guys. There's a lot to discuss. People in the chat are kind of weighing in on like review discussions, Game of the Year discussions, and obviously we're very excited for Ghost of Yotei. So thank you so much for being here. If you found this stream today on YouTube and you like this kind of talk show about gaming, it's safe for work. We do this Monday through Friday. Make sure and hit that subscribe button and the bell button. It is free to subscribe to the channel, and it looks like a lot of you are finding the video by searching for Ghost of Yotei. So if you are enjoying hanging out and watching a stream about one of the new releases, this is just something that we do. We try to cover not every release. Like there are some games that I'm not going to vibe with, but Yotei is one of my most anticipated games this year because I absolutely loved Ghost of Tsushima. If you liked Ghost of Tsushima, I have a deep dive on the channel right now into the story of Tsushima. It's called What is Honor. It's my most recent upload. People compared Tsushima and Sekiro before. No lethal on launch. No, unless it gets added in the day one patch, Eugene. Gene Park said that there's no New Game Plus and no lethal at launch. I believe the same thing happened with Tsushima. Those things were added later. And Sucker Punch is good for it, right? It's like if they owed me $5, I know they'd pay it, right? They're good for it. I would say that maybe it'll show up when Legends shows up. We know Legends is coming at a later date, unconfirmed, but we know that it's coming. They've announced it, so it is confirmed that Ghost of Yotei Legends is coming. I could see them adding like lethal and New Game Plus at that point in time. This man deserves more subs. I appreciate that. We tried to run a. We've done a bit of a vibe shift where we want to be. I like having discussions and debates, but we want it to be more enjoyable and fun and about games, and not getting bogged down into squabbles and stuff that we were kind of getting stuck on. So we've kind of moved away from some of that stuff, and I hope that that is something that you guys are enjoying, and it's causing you to either sub or consider clicking join to support the channel directly with a Member Plus. $6 a month, that's a cost of a cup of coffee. Every month you can pay that $6 and get into a bunch of extra content, and it does support me directly. That is how I do this full time. This is where the cool nerds hang out. That's right. Lethal isn't even that hard. Yeah, the Ghost of Tsushima lethal as a concept is cool because it's not just like, oh, the enemy's really strong. You are also really strong. Like, the game is lethal. So everybody can die faster. That's kind of the point. So I think it's a cool concept to try to ground the game in a little bit more realism. Like, yeah, if you got hit a handful of times with a sword, you would die. Like, If you have a soundbar, the wind direction in Ghost of Tsushima is awesome. I'm going to approach Ghost of Yotei really, really differently than I approached Tsushima. I'm going to attempt to just have as much of an emergent experience as I can. Whether I'm just roaming around and seeing something and targeting it with the spyglass and then using the wind to go to it, using the campfire. I'm going to try to do as little of the, menu map check thing, which is going to be really hard for me because I kind of do that. Maybe you guys are like me, maybe not. I kind of do that obsessively. It's like I don't want to miss anything. I've been doing that in Borderlands, 4 with my wife, like making sure we don't miss any of the icons. And I think that's going to be a difficult thing for me to do, but I'd like to try that with Ghost of Yotei. Like, just kind of allow the game to be a place that I go instead of like a game that I'm trying to, play and check boxes. I do plan on doing a deep dive into Ghost of Yotei the same way I did with Tsushima, so that we have like a breakdown of the story. I am hoping the story has similar tones and seriousness that we saw in the story of Jin Sakai. The franchise is Ghost of. They can literally go anywhere in time and place. I do think if the Ghost franchise is something they plan on continuing, I don't think they could leave the sort of the confines of what they've built. I think at its heart, it would need to be a samurai game where you're not, even if you're not necessarily a samurai, like Atsu is not a samurai, she's sort of a roaming warrior. I don't know if you could leave that. I don't know if we could go to a time and place where the character is fighting with, you know, just like maybe a smattering of melee weapons, you know, a club and a broadsword and a shield. Like, I'd be like, no, I think it needs to stay. It needs to stay in the lane they've kind of carved out for itself. I don't think you could leave behind, like somebody said the other day, like, oh, we could do a pirate game. And I'm like, I don't want them to kind of treat it how they've treated, you know, AC. Yeah, like, I don't know about a modern day either. I don't know if that would work. If you're not a ghost, the title doesn't make any sense anymore. Right, you need to establish some level of ghost-like nature where they're sort of roaming around, sneaking around, you know, they're on a quest for some level of vengeance, revenge, or justice. I love Black Flag. Yeah, I'm not knocking Black Flag. Black Flag was one of my favorites, and I'm looking forward to the remake, but Ghost of Yotei comes out in 2 days. We will be playing it. I do have some videos today that are comparing Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima that we will look at. So hit sub so you can talk in the chat. Subscribing to my channel is free. I do a talk show like this Monday through Friday, and I do keep it safe for work. When we're in members content, there might be some cursing or swearing here and there, but generally speaking, it is a safe for work broadcast. So consider hitting subscribe. If you are enjoying the show, also consider hitting the like button. That does help me out. Like you Native American or like Aztec Mayan fighting the Spanish that come over. I think if you lost the Japanese vibe, feel, aesthetic, and even their view of like combat and killing from the era of time that Tsushima and Yotei are occupying, if we leave that, I think you'd really lose it wouldn't feel like a Ghost game. This is why it wouldn't surprise me if Ghost of Yotei is the middle of a trilogy. If it just becomes their Assassin's Creed, my concern is your fourth and fifth game would start to feel a little silly. Like, you're going to run out. I feel like you're going to run out of authentic Railroad. Does that make sense? Like, you can't just keep going to new locations, new eras of time, and new fighting for forever. Yes, I know they did that with Assassin's Creed. But again, there is something about the vibe of Tsushima and even what we've seen of Ghost of Yotei where I don't know if you could get away with that and not have it feel like you're jumping the shark. You would not buy Ghost of Pocahontas. Yeah, I mean, Ghost of Africa, Ghost of Russia, Ghost of America. Like, it would, again, you're wanting to, it needs to be a contained place. Needs to be like almost like an island. Ghosts of Lono, right? Like Ghosts of Hawaii. Like, I don't know if you could do that. I think you would need to keep it sort of contained into what they've done. Now, with a game like God of War, obviously, yeah, they can go where they want. Yeah, Ghosts of Louisville. Ridiculous. Yeah, Ghost of Florida's got a nice ring to it, sure. Ghost of Kiev, Ghost of Salem. I think Ghost of Yotei as a game is signaling where the Ghost franchise will go. It will go adjacent and like lateral. I don't think they're just going to go wherever they want and do whatever they want. It's going to be adjacent. It's going to be lateral to what they've already done with Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yotei. I don't think they're going to break out of those confines. just like if Housemarque decides to do another game after Soros and it's in the same vibe, like I don't think you're going to see these massive changes like a jettison from, you know, the genre they've sort of created. If you guys have not hit the like button yet, really quickly do that for me. Let's try to get to 200 likes really fast. We're having a nice, strong day. Thanks for the strong turnout. In about 25 minutes or so, I'm going to pull up all the videos with all the comparisons of Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. We will look at it. It's called an anthology then? I don't know if they'd call it an anthology. I feel like they would call it a franchise. If you watched the rapid fire questions interview that they did, he did say, you know, he's going to play the game at home on his couch because he feels like that's when you get the best ideas for your next game. Now, somebody could say, well, that's rather generic. When he says next game, they could decide to do something completely different, and maybe they take a lot of their ideas from Ghost of Yotei and what they learned. I think it was a pretty soft and maybe passive admission that they will be doing another one. They will. Again, the timeline would probably mean it's going to be a PS6 title, which I'm fine with. If every time, you know, we're a couple of years in or more into a generation, I get a Ghost game, you're not going to get a complaint from me unless they do a bad job or they go too far or they get too silly with it. You know, that I wouldn't have any problem with that in the least. Ghost of Tokyo. I think you're going to need to take it to places like they've already done with Tsushima and like where we're going with Ghost of Yotei. You need like a contained place, like an island. You don't, if you're in the mainland of anywhere, you know, you're going to have an issue. So like how big is Tokyo? I feel like Tokyo might end up being too big. Like on a map here. Yeah, see, the problem with Tokyo is it's pretty significantly landlocked by places all around it. I think you'd want some kind of an island again, I think. And a gifted member comes in from Joker Quinn, bumping the line to 143. He's trying to wake everybody up. He's like, come on, boys. We're 7 away from the next milestone. Ghost of Okinawa, mark my words. Let's see here. I mean, maybe. Yeah. I mean, you've got yourself an island. You know, I think you might run into issues with the shape of the island being maybe not super conducive, but with how they're doing exploration. Like this could you could struggle maybe a little bit with design of, like, you know, it's sort of like it's very narrow, right? So you'd have to think about navigation and what it would mean for the player to move around a place like this, because, like, you know, Tsushima was very vertical up. So I mean, I guess you could simulate this and have it be similar to how Tsushima felt. There's also, I just saw Taiwan down there in the corner. I don't know if Taiwan could work. Maybe it's a little bit more conducive to, like, map size. Yeah, Yōtei doesn't... Yōtei was originally the name and now it's not called that? Is that what is it called? Yōtei original name. Is it Sapporo? Is that what we're seeing? Or is Mount Yōtei? Where is Mount Yōtei? Is that where it is? Let's see here. Mount Yōtei it's also called Yezu Fuji or Ezo Fuji or Izo. How do you pronounce that, I wonder? It's an active stratovolcano located in Hokkaido, Japan. So it's in Hokkaido. Okay, so yeah. when I went Yōtei map, we would want to look at Hokkaido map. Yeah. So as an example, very, very similar map to what we just looked at. So you can see here, like, this is more conducive to an open world game than Okinawa would be. But they could still make it work. I still think you could use a location like Okinawa, but it would definitely be, I think, a little bit more challenging. Like, this just seems to be extremely conducive to open world. It also is if I'm understanding the topography here, is the mountain, is Yōtei like right dead center in the middle? No, Yotei's not based on real events. No. Tsushima was like loosely based on real events. We know Mongols were invading and killing locations, but there is no story of a Mongol invasion in Tsushima. I don't think. I think it was very like historical fiction. There could be myths and legends about things that happened back then, but I don't think it was based on anything that like we have historical documentation on. Ghost of Master Shredder. Shut up. Oh, man. 150 likes. You guys are crushing it. Thank you so much. Try to get us to 200. If you guys are new, make sure and hit subscribe. You can talk in my chat. Subscribing is totally free. Well, unless you're on purple. Traveling to Japan this summer. An 87 on Metacritic might make this a buy. We'll see. So far, I'm liking the gameplay. Looks realistic. Yeah, one of the things they do in the comparison videos we're going to be looking at is they compare the combat. And I am actually really interested in watching that, with a more skeptical eye. Because it's, to me, I've not played Tsushima at length in a long time. Like, I'll boot it up and, like, goof around in, like, a duel or something. But, like, group fighting and, sneaking around and having to play, like, a couple of enemies at once. I'm interested in how that feels, because I watched a little exchange from Yōtei, and I'm like, man, it looks really, really smooth. Like, the colors really pop. The Ghost of Yotei gameplay that they've been showing, I'm going to be honest with you guys. We would pull up every new Ghost of Yotei trailer, and we would kind of watch it. I'm going to be honest with you. I think a lot of those trailers were not a good representation of the game, because they were more trying to do this like cinematic showcase of the weapons. And you just watching a normal fight, I think, does a much better job. You know what I'm talking about? They were doing this weird cinematic montage thing, and I don't feel like it showcased the combat as well as just showing, just having somebody fight. It looks so much better in some of the videos I've watched now, where it's like it's just somebody literally fighting, 2 or 3 enemies and not doing some weird camera angle thing, montage thing. I didn't dislike those trailers when I first saw them. I thought they were fine. But now that I'm actually seeing real sort of raw Ghost of Yotei gameplay footage from the videos that are out there, I'm like, this wasn't a good showcase. I don't think these trailers helped or necessarily. It's not like they hurt it. But I don't think they put the game in a good light. I don't think they put the game in a good light. I think they could have done a better job, with it. Are you playing English or Japanese for audio? I will play with the Japanese voice acting. That's how I played Tsushima. I think that is a better way. Now, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. Like, if you're like, dude, I don't want to do that. If you like to kind of maybe look away from the monitor sometimes, like if a cutscene's going on, or like maybe not cutscenes, maybe just like generic dialogue, like when you're standing in a town or sitting across the fire from somebody, you don't feel like you have to actively look at the screen. I can totally understand wanting it to be in English. I think there is something just authentic about being in these settings and hearing them speak the native language. I enjoy it. Now, again, that's a personal preference. So, I mean, you play the game however you want, but that's how I'm going to do it. I don't want to read instead of paying attention to the cutscene. I totally get that, Mayhem. I do. It is, I am sacrificing one thing for another. I'm sacrificing, like, ease of I'm sacrificing sort of like the ease of just being able to like look away from the monitor. You have to actively like look at the bottom or whatever. I am kind of sacrificing that, but again, I think it sounds so good. Isn't this thing English Studio? Yeah. What does that have to do with it though? When I say native language, the native language of the studio doesn't really matter to me. They are Sucker Punch studio location. Sucker Punch Productions is in Bellevue, Washington. So I don't think their native language matters to me. It's about the game itself. If you make a game and you set it in, Russia, Japan, Korea, and you have, Russian, Japanese, or Korean people on screen, I would like to hear them speak their native language. I think that sets the vibe of the game and the story. It sets it up really, really well. Wasn't the motion capture English? Oh, I actually don't know. With Tsushima, the Japanese didn't line up with the lip sync. I believe that has been rectified in Yōtei. They rectified it in Tsushima, so I don't think out of the box we're going to have that same frustration. Because when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima with the Japanese, it didn't line up with their mouths, and it was a little off-putting. That was one of probably the biggest flaws with Expedition 33, was that the lip syncing didn't line up very well. Yo, good morning, Trippy Moon. How are you? What are your thoughts on the different Ghost of Yotei play modes? I'm already a big fan of the Watanabe mode. It introduces lo-fi beats to match the gameplay. I think it's so cool that they did that. I myself will be sticking with just the normal vanilla soundtrack, because the music, the Eastern influence meets Western influence with the music is so stinking cool. It sounds like a Western Quentin Tarantino soundtrack or something. Like, I'm really, really digging the soundtrack. I did play Expedition 33 in English. I did. I didn't play it in French. I guess that would have maybe made it feel more like it, but since it wasn't a historical game, it was a very like avant-garde, artistic, weird game. I didn't feel like I needed to play it in French. If it would have been like a historical piece in some historical place in France, I probably would have thrown it into French. It didn't feel like that was going to add to the experience, for me at least. As an example, there's a particular scene in the game, there's a eulogy scene in the game that I think hit a lot harder because I could understand what she was saying and not have to read. Yeah. Plague Tale is a game that you played in French. Oh, I could see that adding to the vibe of Plague Tale big time. Yeah. I could see that. Plague Tale Requiem is so good. I'm looking forward to the third game. I'm looking forward to it. It's a cool world and art style. I think they've done. It's cool to see that franchise kind of continuing on. You know what I mean? Avant-garde, artistic, weird games should definitely be in French. Yeah, after I said that, I realized I was kind of contradicting myself, Gavin. Is the hot springs part real? Asking for a friend. Yes, Ghost of Yotei gameplay will feature the hot springs, and they did answer the question in the rapid fire questions. You can see her backside, just like you could see Jin's. You're gonna see some cheeks. They did not take that out. You won't see like she's not like top. I mean, she's topless, but they're not showing it. They have that like framed out with like the black bar across the bottom, like in a movie or whatever. Definitely playing Onimusha in Japanese. Those English accents were too much. What was really interesting is when I was doing my Ghost of Tsushima video and I was watching through like a supercut. So in anticipation for Ghost of Yotei, I was like, I want to do this video on Tsushima. And I had to watch it in English because that was easier for me to like make my notes. And it was also the supercut that I found. was in English, and I thought that would make it easier for people to watch later as well. I was sort of struck by how I didn't like it as much. Some of it had to do with Jin's voice actor. I feel like English lacks some of the severity and bite. I had a similar situation in AC Shadows. Like the voice actor for Naue was bad, in my opinion. And when I switched to Japanese, I was like, oh, this is so much better. I watched a scene recently from AC Shadows, like a guy did a video on it, and it was in English, and I was like, oh gosh, like she was trying to be intense and yell in a scene, and I was like, this is bad. Like, it was not good. It was very different game in English. About Expedition 3, they went hard on the English dub. They had a huge people voice acting in the game. They actually paid the voice actors out of the marketing budget. That's how they aligned it. That's how they justified it. It didn't come out of the development budget. It came out of the marketing budget. They knew what they were doing. So yeah, I'll definitely have Ghost of Yotei Japanese voice acting. I'll have the default soundtrack. Yeah. All the main English voice actors in Tsushima are really good, though. Well, the thing that really surprised me was when Ishikawa was voiced by the Dharma Initiative guy. That was cool. I was like, oh, okay. That really elevated those scenes for me, because I really like him. I thought, he did a good job. I don't know if it was him. I don't know if he's the voice of Ishikawa in Japanese as well. I don't know if he's fluent or not. Do we have choices of horses? Oh, I don't know. It's an interpretation of the culture from a Western perspective, even if it's meant to be accurate. I'm not going to care about listening to it in Japanese. Oh, I'm not trying to convince people one way or another. I think you should put it on whatever you're most comfortable with, because if it's going to hurt your experience, then it's not worth doing. Yeah, if putting it in Japanese is going to hurt your experience, then I wouldn't do it. I would put it in English. Tom Cruise was the best samurai. Oh my gosh. If I see Jennifer English in the marketing, I need to listen to Jennifer English in the game. For sure. For sure. I mean, I think that played a role in me wanting to listen to it in English as well, was seeing Charlie Cox and Jennifer English and Ben Starr and Andy Serkis. I thought that really added to the experience as well, having that caliber of voices in the game. So if you guys are just tuning in, make sure and hit the like button. We're discussing Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. I've got some videos we're going to check out here in about 10 minutes, so stick around for that. We do that so we can just kind of talk and vibe before looking at everything. I've got a video comparing the two games. I've also got a Digital Foundry video looking at Ghost of Yotei and like the performance and the ray tracing and stuff. There is a new video comparing Ghost of Yotei to AC Shadows that we may take a look at. We may not. I haven't made up my mind yet. We'll consider it. I think they're very similar games, but also very, very different. Are you covering COD next? I don't think so. When is that? I don't have almost any interest in that game now. I don't even know if I'm gonna buy it and play it. I just don't know. It looks so bad. I have zero interest in it. I was so excited they were going back to that storyline. I was like, the latest trailer when they showed the campaign gameplay, I was like, this looks like trash. I just have no interest in it. Been playing Expedition 3 for my sister. She's hooked and has developed a crush on Ben Starr. I mean, I think we all have. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Unfortunately, we've got to kind of stay on topic, which sometimes I'm really strict about that and and sometimes I'm not. Right now, we need to stay on Ghost of Yotei, and especially because I'm going to be pulling up these comparison videos in the next 5 minutes or so. So I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you hitting subscribe, hitting like. A lot of new subscribers today. Glad to have you here. If you're fans of Tsushima, Yōtei, well, you can't really be a fan yet. I mean, you're anticipating it. A fan of PlayStation games. We cover a lot of their stuff here. I've found myself primarily gaming on the PlayStation, but I have used my gaming rig a little bit recently. It was the fastest way to play Borderlands 4, so we did some coverage of that. My wife and I have been loving that. Looking forward to Soros as well, playing a lot of Returnal lately. Who wins 1v1 no stealth between the main characters? Yeah, so we had this question yesterday. Like, if you're considering Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima, you might instantly think of, like, Jin Sakai versus Atsu. I think Jin Sakai wins, hands down, because he's trained as a samurai by a very, very strong samurai in his uncle, and he gets to the place where he excels past his uncle. That's pretty significant. I don't think you can understate the level of skill he would have. He's even described as in the game as they've never seen anybody fight like that. They've never seen a samurai fight like that. He fights like an animal. Like there's a brutality and a speed and a ferociousness to him that I think would give him an edge. Like, she's obviously a trained warrior. I'm assuming we're going to get some kind of a backstory into who trained her, because she can use katana, odachi, kasurigama, and a spear. So she's very adept as a warrior. But his ability with the katana would just so heavily outweigh hers, which is where she would lose. She's been trained her entire life for revenge. He merely adopted being the ghost. She was born in it, molded by it. I'm actually angry that I read that. I got halfway through and I'm like, oh, he's doing the Bane thing. Here we go. Jin changing stances, then Atsu shoots him in the face. Well, obviously, if she's 20 yards away with the gun out, that's a different conversation entirely. If they had a face-off, she can use whatever weapon she wants. He's going to win, right? Even if she uses something with really long reach, like the spear. He's equipped to fight against spearmen. He has a stance for that. So I think his adaptation and his ability with the blade and his canon is that he liberates an entire island and he wins duels against some of the fiercest warriors. I think that gives him a huge edge in a contest. If they came to fight blade to blade, she wouldn't stand a chance against him, I don't think. So, Atsu versus Naoe. I think Atsu would win a fight against Naoe. Naoe is more of a ninja, less of a warrior. Her strength was not in her fighting. Like, even in the game itself, they set that up. She's not particularly great in a fight. She can get it done, and she's fast. But, yeah, I think Atsu would beat Naoe. Yeah. Naoe kills Atsu before the fight begins. Well, if Naoe was able to sneak up on her and like, yeah, obviously like kill her when she's not paying attention. If they actually went again face to face, blade to blade fight, Atsu would win. If you allow Naoe to like sneak around, that's not really a fight, is it? If you're asking the question, if they fought, who would win? Atsu wins. If it's like, oh, but Naoe can sneak, well, you didn't ask me about that. You asked me if they fought. Like, that's presuming that they're fighting each other and not one getting stuck up on the other. Jin versus Yasuke. Jin. Yasuke was trained later in life, so Jin would beat him. Jin has beat people his size or bigger. So his size and his strength wouldn't matter. Yasuke was trained later in life by Nobunaga. So I believe that Jin would also then have a leg up on him as well. He studied the way of the samurai from the time he was a child into adulthood. I think that gives him an advantage. Yo, Manny plays PC with 25 months and a member plus. Boom, 144. Let's get it. Purple, you got it. You got until tomorrow afternoon. This Valorant incentive that they're doing. You have until tomorrow afternoon. They're giving bonus members. This reminds me about the dogfights we hear about between stealth fighters and 4th gen fighters, where the 4th gen win because 5th gen were not allowed to use their stealth. Jin wasn't a poser. I don't think Yasuke was a poser, but I think his training would be far more limited. You know, he goes from not being samurai to being samurai in like, you know, a couple of years or whatever. Jin's trained his whole life. That's just, I don't know, that's just different. Yasuke was real, was Jin? No, Jin's made up character. We're just talking within the games, the story, the lore, the established abilities, like who do we think would win? So, I think height and speed trumps Jin's training. Well, the game would say otherwise. He fights people that are much larger than Yasuke. So the actual game itself is what I'm using here. Like the actual canon, Jin Sakai has no problem taking on big, huge brutes. Asian with the blade versus a 6'3", a black guy with a kanabo? No. It's his speed against that would be, he would never lose. There's no way. He fights against guys with guns and bows and arrows, and he fights against these brutes that have like these flaming cannons. I don't think Yasuke would give him any trouble at all. Again, he has literally trained his whole life. I think that just completely changes the discussion. The Khan and Yasuke wouldn't be that different. Yeah, Koten Khan was pretty stinking huge. There's also brutes in like every encampment that you have to fight that have like these flaming cannon things that are pretty stinking strong. Like Jin literally has a stance for every type of enemy. You got a spear, you have a sword and shield, you're a brute. He's got a stance for you. He can adapt. Like that would give him a distinct advantage. He would literally have a stance specific to Yasuke. He'd be able to take him on no problem. But Yasuke can jump with adrenaline points and stomp the ground. Yeah. All right, let's pull these videos up here. These are the kind of debates that are fun because nobody's gonna take it personal and get nasty. You know what I'm saying? So let me pull the first video up for you guys, and I will share a link below, as well as I'll share a link with you guys if you want to watch the entire thing. So the first thing I want to look at are the textures, okay? Okay, so we're going to look at the texture comparison here, and I am going to pause this. Now, again, you have to consider something. This is where I think just sort of quickly watching trailers, and I remember this happening with Jedi Survivor. I thought Jedi Survivor didn't look that much better than Jedi Fallen Order, and then I went back and I actually watched some Jedi Fallen Order, and I was like, oh, wow. So I would say this is one of the first pretty good indicators that they have added quite a bit to the game. Now, something that we're going to come back to later that I think is assisting here is the lighting. The use of lighting on the tree is assisting the textures because it's adding a sense of depth. And you're like, well, the bark is different. This is true, so let's keep watching. But again, you can see as it rotates, the lighting, and again, I think you're going to notice something similar here. The rock faces are different. They're different colors, but you can see the textures being significantly aided by the lighting. And I think this, again, is something that's going to come up quite a bit in our discussions this adds a lot of credence to things that I've talked about recently on how the visual lift in games going forward is primarily going to come from AI upscaling for the resolution and then the lighting. So more ray tracing, and then next gen on the PS6, we should have some form of path tracing, which will be a significant jump for what a console can do to make a game look good. So, and this is a video from Analista de Beats. El Analista de Beats. So, great channel for these types of comparisons. Again, here you do have different wood texture colors. So, like, one's obviously darker than the other. But the lighting, I think, is going to play a role here. There is seemingly, I think, a greater sense of depth in the wood grain. And this is not to say, and again, you got to remember, these comparisons have nothing to do with saying, like, well, Ghost of Tsushima looks bad. Ghost of Yotei looks markedly better. Those that are saying that it doesn't look any better, perhaps you're watching on a small screen, perhaps you're, I don't know, maybe the resolution's down. Watch this later on your own on a TV or something to that effect. So more textures being shown here. Again, I think you get aided by the lighting. But if you look at the rocks, in particular on the left, there's an almost blurriness to them. Okay, there's a slight fuzziness to them. And you look at the rocks on the right, and there is, to me, quite a bit more clarity, and lighting is playing a role. Something as simple as this rock here, just that very soft texture that you can see. And now I want you to compare the texture of this one to this one. What this does is it adds a level of, dynamism. Is that the word? Dynamism? I think that's a word, isn't it? It adds a level of dynamism to the color as well, and the texture. Like, this looks more realistic. This looks almost monochromatic, right? The rocks all look very similar. Their textures look very similar. So this just has that real feel to it. Like when you stand on like a craggy, rocky, a crocky, you go to like a river or like your local park or something, you got all these rocks strewn around, and they all have like different colors, different textures, depending on how long they've been there. So I think this just adds a level of realism that you're not going to quite see. Now, again, crikey, mate. Yeah, sorry about that. So here, again, it's subtle if you're not looking at it. But when you take a second to look at it, it is really noticeable, okay? Now, again, I'm just going to continue pointing to lighting and shadows because that's going to come in later when we look at the Digital Foundry video, right? But this, again, has an almost blurry, almost jagged, feel to it. Now, you're running around and you're not looking at this, you're not going to notice this. And that's totally fine. But when you add all these things up, it really, really does start to, I think, just really bring the package together. As you're moving through the world, everything looking so real. Tsushima superior, Yōtei downgraded. That's pretty weak attempt at bait. I think it's blatantly obvious one looks way better than the other. It's not a great attempt at bait there. Now here we're dealing with mud. And this is not a very good, I don't think, this is not a very good one-to-one. But I do think it shows you once lighting improves, you get less of this like super shiny, element. I couldn't even find you, bro. I had to search. Plenty of people found today no problem, so that could just be YouTube messing with you. That's another reason to like unsubscribe, resubscribe, set your bell to all, hang out in the Discord, follow me on Twitter. Yeah, I've said this I've been streaming for a decade, and when you rely on these platforms to notify you that somebody is live, I don't know why you would do that. They're the most unreliable. That's the most unreliable thing about YouTube. It will not put you on, I won't be on your homepage consistently. It will not notify you consistently. You've got to, and sadly, this is unfortunate, you've got to do your own work if you want to make sure you never miss a show. But yeah, this isn't a great comparison, but this does just, again, this feels more grounded. And again, just getting back to textures, not a one-to-one, but you can see they've taken the time to add more of a dynamic nature just to the tree itself, to the nature of the bark having depth and almost like a substance. This feels more like a tree sort of wrapped in a bark texture. This feels like actual three-dimensional pieces that you could go up and, like, you know, pick off the tree if you wanted. You're usually the first video on my homepage consistently. The YouTube platform has been insane lately. It has been insane. You can't rely on it, like, at all. You can't rely on it at all. You have to ensure that you have other ways of being notified that your favorite content creators are making content, because YouTube has just been insane lately. Like, they've made so many insane changes. So even behind this tree, you can see some of the dated nature of, like, textures and stuff on the ground. Because again, this is a PS4 game. Ghost of Tsushima has always looked incredible for a PS4 game. Not one-to-one again, but I'm just going to keep coming back to the lighting. Lighting on the rocks is really lifting the texture that they've added, and these textures feel quite a bit more flat. Some of that's because the textures themselves are quite a bit more flat, but also because of the lighting differences. And we'll get to that shortly. There is a video from Digital Foundry looking at the lighting differences. I think this is a really, really good comparison because these trees are obviously the same type. You'd need to ask an arborist what kind these are. I think they're beautiful, obviously. That white bark it honestly looks like somebody painted it, which, depending on what you do believe they've been painted. But the texture is what to notice. There is more of a lifelike bumpiness and shadowy nature to this, and this just feels, again, more flat. This feels like it's been wrapped in bark or in like some kind of a sticker, and this feels more like you could go up and put your hand on it and touch it, and you almost instinctively know what this would feel like, right? Again, this comes to two different things helping and playing off of each other. Increased texture detail being then lifted by lighting and shadows that are adding a level of, again, visual lift to the game. And I know a lot of people will say when you do these comparisons, like, well, nobody does this. The point is, no matter where you are in the game, this game has been touched by an uptick and an increase in detail, and that really starts to come together. That was something that I really praised in AC Shadows. It felt like the entire game had been just really, really cared for. Every building, every bush, every tree felt as if it had been, given a little bit of tender love and care. Here again, you're dealing with a different time of day. You're dealing with, a different angle of the lighting. But again, we're looking at some type of like mud, sandy area, and lighting is your big benefit here. Instead of having sort of like a flat feel to the lighting and the shadows on the left, there's more depth and substance on the right. They do some comparisons to snow here, which I am less interested in. I'm more interested in the next one that I wanted to look at was not fire, but foliage. It's a birch tree. Okay. Okay, so we're going to get some foliage comparisons here. All right, here, let me get out of the way here for a second. Yeah, so you can definitely tell they've wanted to give more interaction. She's able to cut the grass. I saw this one on Twitter. She's able to like literally leave sweeping marks in the grass. The interaction with the leaves, I think you'll really start to notice this in the next clip. Here, I can come back on cam now that they're not split. She does a couple of things coming up. And again, you're going to get just a quick hint at how the lighting in the game is helping. That quick flash of like a reflection from the ground, just watch it in motion. Watch what it does to just add to like this sense of now that the leaves are out of the way, there's a reflective quality to the ground. And that you're getting that from that, the lighting. I don't know. We're going to listen to John Linneman talk about the lighting system that they've used. A great one here again to look at is, here, I got to get out of the way again. You can see this very, very clear sort of wet ground underneath. And I think this is just adding to that sense of the game feeling very grounded and very real, because you've got, there's just a sense of texture to it, is what I keep coming back to. There's a huge sense of texture to it. Even if you look at just the leaves themselves, you know, even if you just look at the leaves, I mean, there's a massive amount of texture to the game. The leaves in Jin's world, I think, look a little bit flatter. I was trying to get out of the way, because like right here, look, right here, there's like a lot of the lighting and a lot of the textures and stuff. So, yeah. That the motion in the leaves when she swings is really, really cool. Really, really cool. So now they're kind of watching how the leaves interact with, throwing something and exploding. I don't think this is a huge difference. I think the physical, like that right there looks very similar. I don't think that's not a big, huge difference. Here again, I think it's subtle, but it's worth pointing out. I also think you're going to notice, if you pay careful attention to these comparisons, what really stands out to me is the color. There is a more flat, single color on the leaves on the left. They all kind of look like they're the same color, and they're either darker or lighter versions of that color. On the right, you see yellowing and browning elements. You see different colors within the green, like faded parts of the leaf, where there's almost maybe more of like the veins of the leaf or whatever. You're not getting as much of the color dynamics on the left, right? It's more of a flat color. You can even kind of see that in the grass below. That always is going to pop more when you have improved lighting. You're just going to get better colors. You can really start to see it here as the camera pans. The right side is picking up environmental lights like the sun's yellowness. Right, they show that also. They show that later as well, where Atsu's yellow outfit is even reflecting on the tree. It's really, really cool. That's in Digital Foundry's video. We'll get to that later. So now they're just going to show you some of the foliage here in the water and just how, it plays and interacts. Obviously this is different, but you can see there's been greater care taken, and you're going to continue to see this come up. It's going to be the lighting, and the lighting really, really lifts the colors and really, really lifts the textures. This is, I think, really, really important to notice now, because I think a lot of this is going to be a part of the dialogue going into next gen, because I think that's going to be a big focus next gen. These Yōtei comparison, Yōtei looks more real to me. Yeah, Tsushima looks more like a video game. This, it's really hard to pick up on any differences. There's just too much going on. It's too lush and too thick. There's very little difference here. The main difference you're going to notice in these sections is probably going to be lighting and shadows, would be my guess. Yeah. Here, I maybe you could say the shadows seem more organic and more reacting to the individual blades, and it's more generic on the left. Outside of that, I don't think there's any major differences here. I also think if you look at the characters themselves, if you look at Atsu and how the sun is interacting with her, and how the sun's interacting with Jin, you can also notice a difference. Again, the lighting system really, I think, helps here. So just kind of swinging the sword in some foliage. So just a slight amount of, leveling up in the realism. Little tops of the flowers getting chopped off. When stuff like this happens in the middle of a fight, it's definitely cool. It adds to the cinematic and sort of the bombast of the fight. So if you're fighting somebody in this section and the bamboo gets in the way, it falling like that, I think adds to the experience. But then obviously there's bamboo that's too thick to be chopped down. I think here they're just showing maybe lower lighting environments or fog. Okay, I was not as interested in the smoke, so let me skip ahead. If you guys are going to do a renewal, a little bit of a contest between the platforms today, Twitch, you have a huge advantage right now. Anytime you gift 5 or more, Valorant is gifting, so you can pull ahead in the contest very quickly. So we're going to do some world comparisons here. And this is where I think a lot of the commentary surrounding Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima, I think a lot of the conversation around it doesn't really acknowledge that Tsushima was well ahead of its time. For a game in 2020 on a PS4, this is an impressive amount of work right here. This is very, very good. And so that, I think, is why that conversation went the way that it went. In the first couple outings of Ghost of Yotei trailers and stuff, it was clear that people, number one, weren't really being fair in the comparisons, but they also were forgetting that, like, Tsushima is just a gorgeous game. But look at the difference. It's immediate to me. And I'm going to keep coming back to the lighting. It lifts the entire environment. It really does. It lifts the entire environment. All of it. Immediately feels more like a moving, living photograph. It's almost immediate. To me, it's almost immediate. And here you can see the lighting system being more harsh. It's very, very black and very, very dark. The shadows don't feel as soft and as genuine. Now, she's not riding underneath. I don't know if they'll do a better comparison moving forward, but just... And here's the thing. Here's the reality. If you take this and you do a third Ghost game for the PS6, and you do another uptick in lighting and path tracing and resolution, dude, I'm satisfied. I'm satisfied with that. Like, I don't think we need to go light years beyond where we are. Like, just the difference from Tsushima to Yotei, I feel is like a very satisfying leap. And if we get another similar satisfying leap into the next gen, I will be very pleased with that. Because this is gorgeous. Tsushima is so good looking. But then when you come into Yotei, I just think there's... Well, that's a bad comparison. He should have went to trees there. I mean, this looks great, but... Oh, wow. That's a great shot. Turning around and letting the sun hit the snow like that. Man, oh man. Yotei. Ghost of Yotei is really pretty, man. Wow. This, I think this might win over AC Shadows when it's all said and done. I kept saying AC Shadows was the best looking game this gen. Yotei is just gorgeous. It's like a living painting. There's something about the art style. Man. The water looks much better. Wish they improved the water physics. Yeah, there was a couple sections comparing the water, and I thought the water was fine. I mean, it wasn't bad, but we don't need amazing water physics in this. I mean, it's obviously nice when you're in the water or fighting in the water or running in it. So So we're comparing the horses now. It's very important. Here again, I think you're just getting the texture and the lighting playing really well together. If you look at the horse's skin, especially right here at the top of his leg, you really get a sense for what. And then just look at the texture of the cloth beneath the saddle. This is just, we're just in a really great place with gaming. We really, really are. I mean, this is the fact that you can buy this game in a couple of days and play this. And get a game to look this good, I just think is. Whew. Imagine what Naughty Dog is going to do. We've really gotten to a great place. We really, really have. I think the only thing I would say that I'd be critical of, the hair here is really good. The hair and the tail is probably, I think, the only thing that was noticeably video game-ish. It looked a little bit more like a video game. But like here, again, they're different colored horses, so I think it's difficult. But you notice, more of a rigidity in the hair, in his mane, right on the top of his head. Texture in the face has a flatter look to it. This looks like a vein that's part of the texture. This looks like a vein that's part of the horse. It's very, very, very well done. You got to check out the backside, as always, chat. You like the horse face in Tsushima better? Oh, I thought the Yōtei one looked incredible. If you guys are just tuning in for the Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima comparisons, we've been going for about 20 minutes with the comparison. I mean, I've been streaming for an hour and a half, but make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. Thanks so much for being here. We do talk shows and a podcast about gaming Monday through Friday. Yeah, there you go. I just keep coming back to grounded. It's got a very grounded, real feel. So, like, if you go right here from Tsushima into Yōtei, you see what I'm saying? It just feels grounded. It feels real. It is just stunning. This right here, this is one of the earlier shots we got of the game, is just stunning. Such a good job. I can't wait to have this on the big screen. The skybox as well, the cloud system John Lindemann talks about. It's just so good. Everything about this is good. The scope of the game with that mountain in the background, RTGI works wonders. It really does. Like, I have gone fully into being like a global illumination apologist. Like, there was a time where I was like, ray tracing is a gimmick and it kills performance, to now being like, if your game doesn't have RTGI, I don't expect it to look as good. It's just, man. And see, now I'm starting to notice things, and I bet you Zubair notices this too. Like, the first thing I noticed in this shot was how the lighting was too harsh and too high contrast on the rocks. It's like it's too much. It's like it's too bright. You know what I mean? It's like now I'm starting to notice that the lighting feels artificial. It's like when you're in a room with like fluorescent lighting or something versus, sunlight. I can be PC Master Race for a moment. Imagine this at 240 FPS. It looks real. Oh, I bet. Because that blurring effect's not going to be happening when you spin. PS5 Pro is ruining you. It is. Yeah, see what I'm saying? The lighting, it's immediately. It's immediate. I mean, you go from the harsh high contrast of this, the harsh sort of artificial high contrast, which I love Tsushima. Tsushima's gorgeous, but this immediately, it feels grounded. It feels so much softer and so much more realistic. I absolutely love this. This looks so good. Just the way that it's hitting the horse. Like, if you look at the horse's leg, it's just so, it is just very nice. The movement of the foliage and the lighting, yeah, I think this is gonna take the cake. I think I'm gonna end up saying this is the best looking game of the gen. This is better looking than AC Shadows. This is better looking than Death Stranding 2. Just, you know, it is really, really good looking. This is where I will say there's not been as much of an uptick. The water still looks like there's kind of like a texture laid across the top of it instead of it feeling like real water. This is probably the weakest point, I think, in the showcase. This doesn't look as good. Like, the water's fine in Tsushima. It's not bad. And then the water in Yōtei, it's fine. Like, it's not bad. It, again, from far away, I think the water looks great. Once she's kind of in it, like, this looks good. Like, shallow water, highly reflective, looks phenomenal. Also looks phenomenal in Tsushima. I don't think this is this big of an uptick. Yeah, water's hard. Like, water's water. I mean, at a certain point, it's always going to have its struggles. Water in AC Shadows always took my breath away. I will say that. I think the water system in Shadows is better than this. Like, that doesn't look as good. That going over the ledge, it just looks like, again, it looks like there's a texture laid over top of the moving. From far away, it looks great, but once she's down here, you can see it. You can sort of see what I'm talking about. Once you're close to it, it's a lot more noticeable. Death Stranding 2 and Horizon Forbidden West have the best water I've seen. Dude, I don't know. I'd have to go look again at the water in Death Stranding 2, because the water in AC Shadows is remarkable. I mean, I would look at little rivers and little creeks, and I was like, it looks freaking real. Like, what is that? Let's see. Lighting and then combat were the two things I wanted to look at next. Hang on. Let me go to that. They look at the... Oh, lighting is like next. Here we go. All right. Wait, was Contraband not officially canceled until now? Was it just rumored to be canceled? So Contraband has been officially canceled and the studio is closing down. Good golly. There. Oh, look at that, dude. That looks so good. As soon as you tune into the difference between them, as soon as you tune into that difference, it's really, really noticeable. It really, really is. Once you tune into that lighting difference, look at that. It's so soft. It's got so much more of a subtlety to it. and Tsushima is gorgeous. Tsushima is still an amazing game. It looks so good. But Yōtei is looking really nice. I'll say Red Dead 2 looked more natural than Yōtei. No, I don't agree. I don't think the lighting in Red Dead's anywhere near this. Not even close. Red Dead looks great. If you look at the characters, the clothing, Red Dead is before its time, but the lighting system in Red Dead doesn't even come close to this. My work is done. I have you referencing the law of large numbers and gushing over global illumination. There is nothing more for me to teach you. I don't know, man. This looks like a PS3 game. Oh, we got time lapse in the day-night cycle. I'm playing Red Dead 2 right now, and the HDR is nowhere near Yōtei. Yōtei's going to win that game of the year? Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, this is subtle. and not super important, but the hair on the fox is, yeah, it's good. I mean, it wasn't bad in the first one by any stretch, but it does look better in the new game. Oh, we're dealing with the animals now. Hang on. I wanted to skip ahead to the combat. Although, hang on. Let's watch this. I like that. I like how the... Man, we are in the dadgum future. Although there was a bit of an oddity here. Yeah, it gets a little funky. Did you see that? The lighting system doesn't like the hair on that rotation. They said they were fixing some of this in the... I'm trying to find the spot where it happens. There's like a break point. The lighting isn't transitioning. There it is. Yeah. Something happens here. It's like the head doesn't realize it and the rest does. It's weird. Yeah, but I always like in games where they do this, where like they have an active reacting fauna system where they're running from you and there's like herds and stuff. John Lindemann will talk a little bit about some of the lighting stuff. Well, that's impressive that they have an entire like animated hair system on the dadgum grizzly bear. Okay, here we go. Yeah, combat. This is what I wanted to look at next. So we're looking at Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima, and we're looking at some combat differences here. And again, Tsushima is just so ahead of its time. It's such an immaculately built combat system and just feels so fresh and new. It doesn't have a traditional targeting system, which at first I didn't like, but I grew to really appreciate it. It adds a level of fluidity and intentionality as you're sort of switching from targets and switching your stances as well. So he is getting a little overwhelmed here, but he definitely went in headstrong, hoping to get a multi-target fight here. That dog is being a bit of a nuisance. Got to get rid of those quick. And it's immediately all the things we've looked at up to now. You know, the visual lift on the game, the lighting system, the shadows. It just really, really adds to this scene that she's in. Just, it looks so stinking good. Okay, so there's one of the gold attacks where you lose your weapon. I feel like there's a lot more, maybe there was this, I know this was in Tsushima, but it feels like there's a lot more, like, blood getting added to, not this outfit, but the outfit prior. Are we going to see, like, dogs and wolves fight? I think the wolf's, like, right there. So she's using the Odachi there. Okay, this is like the rage mode. Your wolf fighting their dogs? No, I knew what you meant. Like, what if our wolf's gonna fight their dogs? Yeah. Okay, so this is more of a gray scale than a sharp black and white. Okay. Comparing the archery here. Oh, so it looks like sometimes you can get the arrows that... Oh! I mean, it's the little things, chat. It's the little things. They add up. Oh, what, is it going to actually break? Oh, it actually breaks into pieces. Okay. I did some digging in the base. And based on OpenCritic, Metacritic, the possible wins are Hades 2, Clair Obscur, Split Fiction, or Ghost of Yotei is a win for me. Because I said 9 out of 10. I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying. I mean, nothing's beating Expedition 33 for Game of the Year, so there's just no way. Okay, so they're comparing climbing here. Okay, so now I want to pull up the Digital Foundry video. So thank you guys so much for being here. If you're just tuning in, we're doing some comparisons of Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. I hope you're enjoying. If you are enjoying the video, be sure to hit the like button. Try to get us to 300 likes. We're having a really great turnout today, and I greatly appreciate all the new folks that are here. Hit subscribe, hit the bell button. If you like talk shows like this, I do one Monday through Friday about all sorts of different games that are out there and gaming news. I am a fan-funded channel, by the way. You might notice that it's not a very large YouTube channel, but I do this full-time because people support directly. So consider clicking join. You'll get access to extra content when you do that. Okay, so Digital Foundry has a ray tracing section that I want to watch and listen to. Okay. Expedition 33, Silksong and Hades may split the vote so much that something else slips in. I don't think anything is splitting the vote with Expedition. I think what you're saying about Silksong and Hades 2 makes perfectly good sense. I think those two could potentially kind of cannibalize each other. Nothing's going to do that. It's Expedition 33. Okay, let's listen to what John Linneman has to say about the ray tracing in this.
Straight to the options menu to see if 60 FPS was available instead. What I discovered was a welcome surprise. You see, Ghost of Yotei supports ray tracing. Now, ray traced lighting is a perfect match for an expansive...
Can we just point out the reflection and the color absorption in the wood? Like, this is a whole new era for gaming. If like this is what we're getting from a mainline tentpole title, like this is very, very good work. This looks so good.
Game like this, yet prior to release, any online search pairing Ghost of Yotei with ray tracing would have come up empty. It's a feature the developers have never promoted or even mentioned, but it's here, quietly waiting to be found, and the results are excellent both on the base and professional PlayStation 5s. If you're playing on a PS5 Pro even, you can enjoy it at a full 60 frames per second. But of course, you might wonder, what does it actually do? Well, in a word, global illumination, but with some limitations. Essentially, it seems to add an additional pass of ray trace lighting to the scenery, allowing for proper, precise bounce lighting with color transfer.
I would really encourage you to watch this video later full screen. I watched this last night it was like smaller up on my monitor, and now that I'm looking at this full screen, I'm like, oh wow. Like when you turn it on, it's subtle, but it's impactful. It really does lift. Yeah, don't look at this on a small screen. Let me see if I can get a frame by frame. I'm going to back it up here to where they turn it off. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Again, it's this, I'm telling you, this is really subtle, but looking at this on a full screen, I'm way more impressed. And I don't even have my screen's brightness up. I have my screen's brightness at a 0%. So let me turn my screen brightness up. You need to look at this at full screen, right? Because it is a huge difference when you're watching on this on full screen. If you're watching this on like a phone, or you don't have it full screen, or you got it minimized or whatever, check this out later and put this on your big screen or put this on a monitor and full screen it. Because it's super, super noticeable. She no longer feels sort of like shrouded in like a harsh shadow. It's like all of a sudden, I don't know. Again, it's the lift of color from the surrounding environment that I think is what really stands out. And once they start showing some of the pottery and stuff, you're going to think the same thing. You're going to be like, it's super inconsequential. I think, again, this is a huge uptick in a game feeling real, because once they're moving around, this really adds to everything we were looking at earlier in that side-by-side comparison video of Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. And I kept saying, it feels so grounded. It feels so real. It feels so soft. That's what's happening, is this right here. it's not a night and day like, oh gosh, I 60 versus 30 FPS. It's not like that. It has this very subtle lift where everything feels more realistic.
To illustrate what I mean, check this out. Without ray tracing enabled, the pots visible in this scene exhibit a moderate orangish glow as a result of the sun, but it lacks any sort of precision and direction, and the shadowed areas are dark. Enabling ray tracing, however, immediately showcases a stark difference. Light travels from the window, bounces off the wooden shelf, and light is reflected up onto the underside of each clay jug.
Now again, this feels like a nothing burger. Like, I remember I was looking at this last night and I was like, this doesn't really matter. After looking at the comparison between the two games, this is why when she's out in the world and the trees and the grass and the buildings, that's why it looks the way that it does. This is subtly added to everything. So like right here, you're like, what the frick? What a nothing burger. It barely does anything. You're going to get another scene here in a second where the bounce lighting on the tree, as Amateur's talking about.
It's very localized and precise, suggesting a per-pixel solution. What it essentially means is that the scenes are lit with increased precision and realism, and while not as robust as games designed from the ground up for RTGI, the results are excellent all the same, and is my recommended way of playing the game. You can clearly observe here how ray tracing contributes to subtle light bounce effects. Note the illumination visible on the underside of Atsu's hat, a detail that would be absent using a purely rasterized solution. This implementation simply allows for a more robust simulation of light transport. That said, while it does greatly enhance the presentation as you've seen here so far, the implementation itself appears to be a hybrid of sorts, likely building on the existing probe-based system. It's evident in how NPCs tend to stand out visually. They lack the grounded integration you'd expect if they were part of the ray tracing acceleration structure, not unlike what we've seen in software-based Lumen implementations. The game also still leverages a lot of screen space effects such as ambient occlusion, as opposed to the more natural contact shadows you might get from a more robust RTGI. Interestingly, Atsu herself seems to be treated differently. I noticed color bleed from her outfit appearing on nearby geometry such as trees, the light from the sun bouncing off of it. You'll note that even when she's occluded from view, the tree exhibits a residual yellow glow, which suggests that she alone may be included in the BVH structure, allowing for more accurate light interactions where it matters.
This guy loves 30 FPS if it means ray tracing, for the record. That is an incorrect and inaccurate and false summary of what John Linneman thinks. He has never said that he loves 30 FPS if it means he can get ray tracing. I've never heard him say that. The only time I heard him say that the 30 FPS mode was preferable was in Final Fantasy 16, and it largely seemed based on the fact that the frame rate fluctuated so much in performance mode. He felt that the 30 FPS quality mode was adequate and good looking. I don't think I've ever heard him say he loves 30 FPS though.
Now, this isn't as comprehensive or robust as the full RTGI suite seen in other games, such as Doom: The Dark Ages, but the inclusion of ray tracing here still elevates the visual presentation to the next level, allowing it to feel like a noticeable upgrade over the PS4 original. It adds nuance and depth to the lighting model, and for those playing on PS5 Pro, I'd absolutely recommend playing with this mode. That said, the traditional rasterized lighting path remains impressive in its own right. Technically, it's comparable to the original game, but...
Yeah, so here, again, this is exactly what I was talking about, where the reason the whole game has this very subtle, realistic feel... Hang on, I'm trying to back it up. Yeah, I want a frame by frame. Hang on. This is why. Right? This is not Oliver? No, this is John Linneman talking. This is not Ollie. Yeah, you're listening to John Linneman. This is not Oliver. I don't think Oliver's ever said that either. Hang on, I'll pause them. Sorry about that, Wilbur. I don't think I've ever heard Oliver say, I love 30 FPS if I get ray tracing. Like, maybe they prefer a 30 FPS ray tracing mode in certain games because they feel like the visual lift is worth it. But I don't know if I've ever heard Oliver or John Linneman say that. Are you sure? I am 100% certain we are listening to John Linneman talk. Yes. Yes. They have very different voices. But this right here is exactly what I'm talking about. It's why the whole world has this very subtle, soft realism to it. It's the lighting. Like, look at the difference in how the rock looks almost placed here. There's a flatness to the base of the rock, just sort of like it's there. It's not bad by any stretch, but this, it just elevates its placement to feeling more organic and more realistic. It's subtle, but it's super, super key. This is why earlier when I was like, yeah, if you look at the pots, you're like, this is a nothing burger. And then you go out into the open world and you're like, oh, that is a big lift in realism, having that lighting turned on. No, you're good, Lone Wolf. I think Oliver and I think Ollie and John have similar voices, but they are quite different. I was overstating his position. He's the graphics guy, though. Well, I have a bit of an aversion to people having their positions overstated because it's commonly done to me. I don't like that. I don't think there's anybody at Digital Foundry that's like, dude, I love 30 FPS. As long as I get ray tracing. I think they would always say their preference is to get a performance mode with ray tracing.
But the artistry has evolved. The environments feel more cohesive and visually rich this time, even though they were already beautiful in the original. Many of the strengths we highlighted in the original video return here. The volumetric cloud simulation.
Yeah, I think they made a bit of a mistake here, unfortunately. They never turned the ray tracing on here. You can sense it. You're like waiting for it. You're like, you know that like the grass and the blades and the trees, it would look better. They forget to turn it on. This might just be a slight editing mistake at Digital Foundry. It just
in the original video return here.
See, they never turn it on.
Volumetric cloud simulation, for instance, is once again superb with minimal breakup and excellent variation. It really breathes life into these landscapes. The overall atmospheric light scattering, especially when standing atop a tall mountain, is breathtaking. Weather effects build on the foundation laid by the previous title as well, and the addition of dynamic particles and foliage adds a layer of realism to every scene. A particularly delightful touch is the interaction with the foliage, specifically sprinting through leaf-covered arenas leaves behind trails of leaves, fluttering and scattering in your wake, a subtle but effective detail. The original had something like this too, but it was much less robust, as you can see, not leaving the trails or producing as many leaves. So it's a noticeable upgrade. Beyond this, the game's bold color palette and vibrant landscapes are beautifully presented using HDR. Yōtei leverages the full dynamic range, delivering stark contrast between shadowed interiors and brilliant sunlight. On a calibrated HDR display, it's breathtaking, and this video is of course presented in HDR, so if you have such a display, it should give you an idea. But of course, the settings that I captured with here were adjusted for my TV specifically, and it can vary. But arguably the most impressive aspect of the visual design lies in its sense of scale, not just in terms of map size, but in its perception. Sucker Punch has truly mastered the art of making the world feel vast.
I completely agree with what he's saying. One of the first things I noticed in the first trailer was the sense of scope and size that they were getting with like the mountains and the big sight lines. It was like, this game looks enormous. You need to start streaming in HDR at 4K. I need to figure out if my capture card can do it. I feel like HDR always screws with my capture card and makes everything look bad. It looks like dark.
Valleys curve into towering mountains, and the terrain design amplifies the illusion of grandeur. It's not just big, it feels big. A subtle distinction, but a meaningful one. This is further enhanced by smart environmental cues, plumes of smoke such as those indicating key points on the map, shifting weather patterns, and fields of white flowers guide the player organically. Ride through these flowers and you're rewarded with a traversal speed boost, a clever touch that gamifies exploration without breaking immersion.
Which I think is another thing that Sucker Punch is known for. After Ghost of Tsushima, like, I feel like they really think through how can we make the open world exploration not feel like a game, but feel like a world that just softly nudges you. Like they did that with the wind. And now they're enhancing it with the flowers. They're also enhancing it with the ability to use the spyglass to like mark something, and then the wind will guide you to it. I really commend their insistence upon, let's evolve the open world. Let's make it better. I've said from the beginning I felt like they were going to elevate open world games another step after we've already seen some open world games do that. And I think they have. I think they've succeeded in doing that.
The sheer density of reactive foliage all swaying and responding to your movement reinforces the sense of a living, breathing world. It's wonderful stuff. Equally, the
Hang on, I want to see that lightning.
A living, breathing world. It's wonderful.
Hang on, I want to see that. Okay. I was gonna say that looked pretty good. Like, it forms, it comes out, it hits its apex, it fades, it literally illuminates the cloud. Oh my
Wonderful
God.
stuff.
Oh my God.
Equally, the character models are impressively detailed once again, just like the first game. From facial features and eye rendering that you can see in this scene, which are very realistic, to the weapons of battle carefully dangling from her outfit. The in-game models are top tier, and you can zoom way in and still see a ton of detail. It's definitely a strength of the game's visuals. I'd also say that the actual animation in-game is superb, with smooth movement, especially during combat, that does feel even better than the original game.
Woo!
Your horse then plays a role as well, and looks great in this game as you barrel through huge fields of grass.
My man said it feels better than the first game. I was like, okay, John, all right. You're not talking graphics now. You're saying the combat feels better? Okay.
If we shift over to story sequences then, there's still a significant distinction between the high-quality cinematic scenes and normal dialogue sequences. So the cinematics, the big story moments, these are of impeccable quality with brilliant lighting, effects, framing, and animation work. They were already excellent in the original game, and that's the case here with even more visual flair. I'll talk more about this shortly, but I do want to mention that the storytelling in this game is also leagues beyond the original. It's very well done. However,
if you think this looks like the first one, I mean, I'm not surprised you're saying it of all people. I think it's disingenuous to say this looks like the first one. We just looked at like side-by-side comparisons of everything, and I got to tell you, I just did
also
a deep dive
the original.
into Tsushima's storytelling. There is not a cinematic in Tsushima that looks this good. There isn't. A bit better? No. This is miles of an improvement. Like, that looks like a real person standing there, right? Like, Tsushima still looked like a video game. Like, I just did a deep dive. I love Tsushima. It's gorgeous. It was way ahead of its time. You need to watch Digital Foundry's video on your own screen, full screen. You need to watch the comparison video that from Elle and Elisa to Be. It's like that channel that did the side-by-side comparisons. I'm telling you, the visual lift in detail is immense. I mean, it's not small. It really, really isn't. I know people are trying to downplay it. It's predictable, and it's always from the same actors. Like, I get it. You gotta maintain that. You gotta downplay this. This is it. This is a very, very, and it's getting high praise from people that actually understand the technicality behind it. Like, it is a gorgeous game. Tsushima is also good looking, but this is a huge jump.
Very well done. However, not every scene can realistically be produced this way, so exactly like the first game and many other open world games, to be fair, these secondary scenes are used instead, and in this game, the animations are rather limited, so the gap between the two feels a little greater than usual. This is an area where Horizon Forbidden West massively improved on its prequel, but here, it's not all that different from the previous title. It's kind of similar to something like the Like a Dragon series, which has these amazing directed cutscenes with subpar character interaction sequences. But while we're on the animation, there's something else I wanted to touch on. In my original video, I complained about this, specifically the way the character interacts with slopes and steps. It's not a huge deal, but it does influence how the character sort of interacts with the terrain while simply walking or running. Did they improve it? Well, this time, it does seem that foot IK, inverse kinematics, is used here, but the actual movement and animation when walking up and down slopes or stairs still doesn't properly reflect the terrain. It's a lot like the first game.
Unplayable.
Which means when
1 out of 10.
Doing these actions, it
trash.
Looks a bit awkward.
Get screenshots and put this on Twitter. This is trash.
I was really hoping they would solve it, but alas, here we are. Another holdover from the last game is the reliance on screen space reflections with cube maps as the fallback. For reflections, of course. By and large, it works well enough, but as usual, the typical SSR artifacts do rear their head from time to time, and unsurprisingly, cube maps don't always match the scenery. Still, aside from those tiny nitpicks, the overall presentation in this game is fantastic. It's a beautiful game, a beautiful world, and a wonderful evolution of the original. It still has its weaknesses, but overall, I do think Ghost of Yotei is a stunning, evocative experience, and I'm always happy to see a non-Unreal Engine-based open world game hit the scene.
I want to skip ahead now. Because if you guys want to watch this entire video, I'll have links provided below. If I forgot to put the links below, then remind me of that. Hadigan says, I'm on the same page. It's an improvement, but not a generational improvement. You two agreeing on that's not surprising. It's not surprising at all. I'm shocked that you guys don't think that it's a generational leap, even though it is arguably, demonstrably, and technically a generational leap. Why? Because you both consistently are on the other side of these issues. It's a prior commitment. It doesn't feel like analysis. This is a demonstrable, technical, and I would say objectively generational jump from the last game. You're also not looking at comparisons to the last game right now. We already did that. You've conveniently waited until now to do this, so I guess I could go back and rewatch the video. I don't feel like I need to do that. I feel like I've demonstrated very clearly it's a generational leap over Tsushima. To argue that it's not, I think is not factual and is forced.
My favorite mode, though, is the RT Pro option. This one offers 60 FPS gameplay with ray tracing, but it also leans on PSSR for anti-aliasing and upsampling.
I've pre-watched this, Corey. There's no spoilers in what I'm going to show you.
At least as far as I can tell. The base resolution is a lot lower, though, weighing in around 1080p, but the overall image quality is still pretty good in most scenes. But I did find an occasional issue, like here. Look at this fine-grained cloth pattern. It's okay enough in the other mode, right? But when you switch to the RT Pro mode, you see a lot of extra noise and sparkle here.
They say that the day one patch addresses this, so I don't know if Linneman will circle back and see if this has been addressed. There's a day one patch that's been detailed. I believe IGN has the article. And this has been addressed in the day one patch, so I believe they knew about this. There's a similar thing happened with Black Ops, I believe, with the PSSR needing to be denoised, so it seems like there has been some cleanup already done by Sucker Punch.
As a result of PSSR. Conversely, there are areas where the PSSR version has advantages over even the highest resolution quality mode. Like here, there's more stability on the wooden planks on the side of this house, specifically when using PSSR. Honestly, in terms of overall image quality, I do tend to think that the PSSR version trades blows with the highest resolution 4K mode. It's really good. The thing is, though, I can't really say that any of the modes are bad per se. They each have their own trade-offs and all deliver the expected results. So it's basically about tilting the needle in the direction that you prefer, right? And this is also true of performance, which thankfully is rather dull. You see, the 30 FPS modes deliver 30 FPS, and that's that. In my testing, I actually struggled to find even a single dip when using these two modes, but you would expect that, right? It's 30 FPS. 60 frames per second, though, is where things get a little more interesting, because if you recall, the state of play featuring this game recently exhibited major performance problems, which left me wondering about the state of the game and its final release. Thankfully, the final game does not have these issues. The overwhelming majority of the time, it delivers a completely locked 60 frames per second without leaning on VRR at all. It's just completely stable. And it was smooth on both the Pro and base consoles.
That's what you get. That's what you get from Sucker Punch. That's what you get from a proprietary engine. That's what you get when you're building for one platform. That's the expectation. This is my expectation from a first-party PlayStation studio. And if I don't get it, I'm going to be pretty harsh. I know that Square Enix is not. That's why I was harsh on FF16, because this is my expectation. Figure it out. And these guys did.
After about 15 hours of play, though, I did actually finally find some slowdown, and it occurred during this battle here. But the key here is that the day one patch, which is supposed to arrive alongside the launch of the game, very specifically says that they will be implementing performance improvements for big battles in dense spaces, like this I assume. So given how rare slowdown seems to be already in this current build, I would say we're looking pretty good for launch, and this may be completely cleaned up by then.
So I didn't want to show too much. I really respect John Linneman and the boys over there. They do good work. So I don't want to continue to show too much of the video. Excuse me. There'll be links provided below in the description of this video to the 2 videos that we used. I want you to support the original content, watch it in its entirety. And I understand you guys are saying, you're not saying it looks bad, you're just saying it's not as big of an improvement. Again, you're conveniently coming in when we're no longer comparing it to Tsushima, and on screen, when we were looking at the comparisons to Tsushima, it was obviously a generational jump. The generational jump is in lighting, resolution, texture detail, the rock-solid 60 FPS. To argue that it's not a generational leap is factually incorrect. You're wrong. It's not a matter of opinion. If you look at PS4 Tsushima and you look at PS5 Yōtei, it is an enormous leap. It is. You're like, well, I don't think so. That's fine. That's fine. It's objectively an enormous and generational leap. There are things present in the game that are nowhere present in Tsushima. It just isn't. And Tsushima's art style really, really hides a lot. It really does. We looked at side-by-sides today, and I was like, man, you can really start to see the age showing in Tsushima. Its art style really hides a lot of it because it's so beautiful to look at. It's a gorgeous game. Lead character hates your guts. You're spending hard-earned money on this. You know what I'm also doing? I don't really care what people like you think. So hopefully you never buy any of the Batman games because of Mark Hamill's, political views as well, even though he's like one of the best Jokers ever. So we don't have any interest in talking to people like you. So go somewhere else and enjoy your boycott. Thank you so much for the Prime. Big Tatty adding to the total 145. We are exactly a 5-bomb away from 150. Every 5 gifted and up on Twitch has the chance for up to 100 extra members. Up to 100 extra members. Now would be a great time to round us out to 150 Twitch, and then I'll do a 5 on top of it. I'm comparing the PS5 version of Tsushima with Yōtei because that's what I played. So what you're saying is that you're making a terrible comparison. If you're going to talk about a generational leap, you can't talk about something that's been upticked on the PS5 with the director's cut. Like, what you're saying is absurd. That would be like looking at the remaster of Horizon Zero Dawn and being like, yeah, Forbidden West doesn't look that much better than it. It's like, well, of course not. You're not comparing the actual thing. You're doing... that's some sleight of hand there. And Valorant adds an extra. A 5-bomb comes in from Siryu. Valorant adds another. And now I'm going to do one. Let's see if we can't get us some more bonus from Valorant here. Guys, it's time for a 5-bomb train on purple. Let's get some of these extras. Wait, why did I not get one? Oh, do you not get one when you gift to your own channel? That's kind of a bummer. I just did 5. That should count. Tsushima sacrificed a lot for 60 FPS. Yōtei is getting significant upgrades over Tsushima, and it's maintaining 60. That's the version I own. What else am I supposed to compare as a consumer? I never had a PS4. I'm not saying that you yourself should be seeking out that version to compare. I'm saying your commentary is incredibly suspect and unhelpful if you're like, yeah, it doesn't look that much better than the visually improved one that I played on my PS5. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you spoke as if like, oh, I just don't think it looks that much better. And it's like, but you actually have to look at the comparisons. Again, you conveniently come in when we're no longer doing the side-by-side comparisons that very, very easily demonstrated the huge lift and the huge leap. You come in after that and are like, well, yeah, it doesn't look that much better. And then you're also like, well, yeah, but I'm also going to talk about the one that I played on my PS5. Like, okay, fine. I don't really think that's an opinion worth hearing then. It's like, that would be like saying, again, Horizon Forbidden West doesn't look that much better than the remastered version of Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, that's just such a stacked comparison. That's a stacked deck. I don't care to convince you. I'm not like trying to change your opinion. I'm saying if you actually look at the side-by-side comparisons, it's demonstrably big in differences. Like, the differences are huge. And they're generational differences. These are things that did not exist on the previous generation. I would even argue that the PS5 version of Tsushima Director's Cut, Yōtei's a generational leap above it purely from the lighting system alone. The lighting system lift in a game like that is generational. That's how Digital Foundry described Assassin's Creed Shadows, the same exact game, is a generational leap when you turn on RTGI. I think that lighting system alone is such a visual lift. To say that it's not that big of a difference, I find that to be very forced. That's very disingenuous. I don't think that that's a real position. I can't look at these systems and look at the lighting differences and be like, yeah, it's pretty minor. Again, you look full screen, do it on your own television, do it on your own monitor, go watch full screen, and I think it's undeniable that the lighting system has done a significant amount of graphical lift in the fidelity, the realism, the grounded nature of the game. It just looks so good. That comparison we did earlier, I think you got to watch that on your own time. You got to watch that on your own time and see, because it's huge. Tyler Johnson breaks the ties between the two platforms. Single renewal coming in with the VIP. I fully agree with Lono. I'm playing the Tsushima PS5 version right now, and Yotei's looking way better. Yeah, when the same people that are usually very like pro one side, anti another are like, yeah, I don't think it looks that impressive. I'm not surprised by that. That feels very forced, and it doesn't feel like a genuine position. When is the day that the channels are going to upload full gameplay of Yōtei? Because always be a few hours. It's usually on the release date, probably midnight Thursday. As we roll over like Wednesday into Thursday, they probably have permission to upload full playthroughs. Usually the embargo on the review is don't live stream it, don't upload full playthroughs, do a review. Now, obviously, somebody could be sneaky and do an 8-hour review and have the entire game or something. Well, 8 hours wouldn't even be enough. Yeah, nobody's going to do that because they know that the draw for the review is that you get like a condensed 20, maybe 30 to 45 minute review at the most, and you're not going to get a full playthrough. So most reviewers also, for the sake of viewership and for the sake of engagement with their with their video, they're not going to do major spoilers either because they know that would turn people off. Zubair says, as a graphic snob, I think it looks good. Yeah, I mean, I had PC Master Race guys in my chat going, wow, like this looks really, really good. So I would say they've done great work. So let me close this. Okay. Releases midnight tomorrow. Yes, I think so. It's fine if people have different viewpoints. Why wouldn't that be a valid opinion? Nobody's saying it looks bad. I think people misunderstood me, and if others think that it looks significantly better, that's cool. I'm not trying to take anyone's fun. It was you co-signing that it wasn't a generational leap. I don't think that's a valid opinion. I think that that's false. I don't think that that's true. I don't. I think looking at the lighting system, texture detail, the performance, all of it, the whole package, right? The animations, the combat, the cinematics, the faces, to say it's not a generational leap, I think is factually incorrect. I think opinions can be invalid. If I told you that I thought, Spider-Man 2 didn't look like a generational leap compared to that old school Spider-Man game back from like the early, PlayStation 3 or whatever, you would be like, okay, that's not a valid opinion. That's clearly false. Do you see what I'm saying? If I was like, yeah, I don't think the new Call of Duty looks that much better than GoldenEye back in the day, you would hear me say it and be like, that's absurd. We know that's not valid. We know that's not accurate. To look at what we looked at today and to say it's not a generational leap over Tsushima, I believe is a false and invalid opinion. We've demonstrated factually it is a generational leap. You don't have to think it looks great. That's when you get into subjectivity. You're like, yeah, I don't think it looks that great, or I don't think it looks that much better. When you use certain terms, that's when you can be false. It's like, well, it doesn't look like a generational leap. Well, that's fine. It is. It's factually a generational leap given what it's doing and that we did not have these things in the previous game. These things are absent from the previous game. If you want to say you have a tin ear and can't hear the difference, then that's perfectly fair, but you can't make declarations for the people with perfect pitch. What's better, steak or venison? Tube socks. What the heck? That doesn't even make any sense. We're at the point of diminishing returns, so refinements to this extent are akin to generational leaps. I think that's probably the best pushback, Lobo, is somebody could say, well, we got bigger leaps in the past. And I would argue and push back and say, right now, our expectations for generational leaps should not be PS3 to PS4. We're not in that era of time. If you've not adequately adjusted your expectations, that like when you see a huge uptick in frame rate, lighting, texture, detail, all of that, you don't see that as a generational leap. I think you're sort of falsely defining generational leap. Generational leap now means uptick in lighting, uptick in resolution, uptick in frame rate, uptick in texture detail. Like, these are considered like what this generation was supposed to deliver. And when I look at Yōtei and I look at Tsushima, I'm like, objectively speaking, it's a generational leap. You don't have to be blown out of your chair. You don't have to fall down and worship the developers. But admitting, oh yeah, that's a generational leap. That's an uptick. That's not in the previous game. That's what I'm talking about. And that's why I've continued to say this is a really, really great case study in what we're going to see on PS6. Like, if there's a third Ghost game on PS6, we're going to have this same conversation 5 years from now. I'm going to say, yeah, it's got path tracing. It's got more and better global illumination. It's got better, facial animations and performance and water detail and all these other world details. It's going to have all these things that weren't possible previously. That will be your generational leap. And if you're like, oh, it's not a generational leap. If you're always having to define generational leap by going back in time and you're like, well, PS3 to PS4, that was generational leap. We're not getting those now. If you're constantly having to do that, then I don't really take that opinion with a whole lot of weight because I feel like you're just stuck in the past. It's like we're not going to get that level of a jump anymore. We're not. We're going to get jumps in fidelity, lighting, performance, load times, texture detail, world, like feeling real, like the lighting systems and the fog and stuff like that. And the water probably is the one thing that they didn't uptick much in Yōtei over Tsushima. We looked at that and all kind of agreed that it didn't look much better. That's sort of the new landscape. That's the new landscape. That's the new expectation that you should have. And the reason I'm saying this is because if we walk into PS6 and people are doing the same thing and crying and moaning and they're running back to PS3 and they're like, yeah, but PS3 to PS4 was such a bigger leap. It's like, homie, you are stuck in the past. And I also feel like it's forced. When I look at just the visuals of like Burning Shores versus Zero Dawn on the PS4 or Yōtei versus the PS4 version of Tsushima, I'm like, I don't know how anybody could look at this and not be like, holy cow, that is a big jump. They look spectacular. I have a hard time believing it's a genuine position. It feels very forced. I'm looking at these games, I'm like, I don't know how anybody can look at this and be like, it just looks the same. It's like, all right, I don't know. That feels a little forced. We got games so much faster in the PS2 days. That's the other side of this debate that I do think is interesting. Is like the cadence back then, people will claim the cadence of game delivery was quicker. And it's like, yeah, and the fidelity and the visuals in the games themselves, they weren't near the undertaking of what we're getting today. COD Next Showcase has 7,000 viewers. No. There's no way. You're looking at a restream or something. That's literally impossible. Are they live right now? That's impossible. No, yeah. No. There's 28,000 people watching on YouTube alone. I was like, dude, there's no freaking way. There's no way. Yeah, there's 28,000 people watching on the Call of Duty channel. There's 2,000 watching on Xbox. There's 3,000 people watching on IGN. I was like, homie, there ain't no way there's only 7,000 people watching that dadgum reveal. Good golly. That'd be rough, boys. 7,000. I mean, I think back in the day we had like 8,000 people watching a Destiny event. They have almost 70,000 people watching the next reveal on Twitch, homie. Come on. There's 13,000 people watching Timmy. There's 32,000 people watching Scump. I don't know what you saw in your feed, homie, but I knew that couldn't be real. I was like, there ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way they only have 7,000 people watching. That would be absurd. Yeah. Just on the COD channel on Purple, they've got a lot. Really missed your Destiny talk. Such a good time. There was a time where I would have agreed with you, and I don't really miss it anymore. I really don't. I don't know. I like being able to talk about whatever I want. You know? It feels a whole lot better. We still get to talk just about other stuff. That's right. Let me close this Word document up here on my screen. Glad you're doing well. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. One of the reasons that we're doing well is just the consistent support of folks doing, memberships and sub, people gifting all of the time. But that can't be the yeah, we switched ingest servers. Yeah, that's a blip for YouTube. You guys are gonna have to refresh it. We switched ingest servers. I don't know why YouTube does that. I feel like it happens now when we fall below a certain threshold of viewership or something. I don't know. Make sure and go crazy on the like button, guys. Try to get us to 300 likes to make up for that. That'll kind of hurt us. How am I going to find out about the secondary ammo economy? That's right. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why YouTube still does that. And we are about 50 members off pace. We want to end today around 200. I don't have the goal over there. What was this week? There was something this week we were going to play with Madam. I don't think we should play Tsushima with Madam. His Lego Party. Yeah. Let's see if I can get a Lego Party PNG here. And we will yeah, here we go. This will work. Okay. Yeah, we need a goal over there. You guys can make Madam and I play Lego Party this Friday night against each other, which I'm sure will be hysterical, and will certainly not lead to any fights or anything. Let's shrink it a bit. There you go. You still owe us date everything? I do. I've been saving that for like if we are doing a Friday night and maybe we don't hit or we don't have anything to play. You'll get it. You'll get your date everything. Don't worry. I'm not dodging. I promise you I'm not dodging. Now that Xbox has all these games, you should do a new publisher game eyesore between Sony and Microsoft? Huh? I don't know what you're saying. Guys, double check that it saved your like. We've kind of stalled out on likes, and I don't know if it's because the platform's acting weird again. I'm going to do my own and make sure it saves it. Sometimes you got to hit thumbs up, and then you got to refresh and make sure that it saved it. I'm going to do that now. When do I think they'll discuss their next product? I don't know. I have no clue. Definitely dodging. Lottie hosting event I watch because you're still doing her thing. Oh, she's hosting? Did she not host the... I felt like... Did she host the last one? Excuse me. I unliked and reliked. There we go. Just bring it up so we don't forget. Okay. New Lord of the Rings game teased? Yes. Okay, so now if we get too sharply off topic, I'm bailing to Green Room because I think it's more productive for us to kind of go generic gaming news in the Green Room on a day like today. We will have like gaming news today shows where we talk about a lot of different things. Today was particularly about Yōtei versus Tsushima. I think we've done that. So I am going to switch us over to Green Room. This is a great reason to become a paying member so you don't miss out. Let me get this set up. We also have a stretch goal with Returnal where somebody came up with a good challenge idea where I have to pick up everything. So this video will do, I think, really well and help a lot of people once I get it out of the live environment and get it time-stamped. So if I'm subbed on purple, can we see this? Yes. Okay. Who's most likely to die in Spider-Man 3? Peter or Mary Jane? MJ, for sure. Yo, it's good, Dark Taco. All right, this is going to be the green room segment that we do as a way to end the day, talk about everything going on, other gaming news. We had a really, really great time with Ghost of Yotei versus Ghost of Tsushima. So if you missed that stream or want to go back to it, the timestamps will be there. The link to the videos will be there. Thank you guys so much for your support of that stream. It was really, really fun. And I'm going to end that one and bring everybody over. Once we kind of drift like that,